Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast. My name is Sam and today I'm joined by a plethora of different co-hosts. We've not had every single person together on a podcast before, but today is the day we changed that. And let me go through everyone, introducing all four other people here. First of all, Josh Bacon. We haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing, mate?
It has been a while, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. It's been too long, but it's a good start with big words that you're increasing your vocabulary. So yeah, I'm liking it.
Mate, thank you. Always learning. Mine's like a dictionary. But on to the Romanian man himself. It's Robert Constantine. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good, actually. I'm happy to be with all of you for the first time. This is incredible.
It really is. It's got to happen more often, guys. I'm not gonna lie. We need to all come together. I'm loving the community. We've also got the Alex Albon lookalike making a return to mark Alex Albon's return to the sport. Matt, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, thank you, Sam. It's finally nice to see Josh's face on a Zoom call, being the first time. So hopefully there'll be plenty more to come.
And Joe is also here. Joe, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Sam. Hopefully, Josh will be more consistent and be on the podcast more.
Mate, it's happening. It's happening. But today we are here to give our predictions for this season's Constructors and Drivers' Championship. It is definitely looking like the hardest to predict in a very long time, with sweeping new technical rules. But we're going to try and predict anyway. The unpredictability makes it fun. Of course, Joe is the reigning champion of the predictions, but we didn't have Matt or Robert here last time, and they're going to add in some expertise, some knowledge. And let's get started. Let's get going with Alfa Romeo. They're the team up first. We're going to do it so we go for a constructor and we say where the two drivers in that team are going to come as well as where we think they'll finish in the constructor. So we're going alphabetical order, a team at a time. Matt, I'm going to come to you first. Alfa Romeo, where do you think they'll come? And they're two drivers new for this year, Valtteri Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou, only rookie on the grid. How do you think they're going to do?
I think Bottas is gonna massively help Alfa Romeo. I think he'll definitely pick up some big points. So I've got them 8th in the constructors, and then in the championship positions, I've got Bottas 15th and Guan Yu Zhou in 17th. So I definitely think they'll be scoring a few points this season.
Very interested. Thanks for getting us started. I'm going to go next. Thought I'd get in early doors. I don't predict they're going to do very well this season, unfortunately, Alfa Romeo. Can't really take anything from testing, but they did have a bit of a gearbox issue that they're going to struggle to get fixed for the first race of the season. But of course, I mean, the first race doesn't determine the whole season, so that shouldn't really be a problem long term. But yeah, I've got them in 10th. I think they're going to come bottom as a constructor. I just think that everyone else has got better and they have just stayed in the exact same place. I think they've actually been stagnating for a few years now. I think they've just been, due to lack of funding, lack of imagination, they've just been struggling, and they've basically been targeted to stay afloat, and they haven't really been looking for improvements. And this year they showed a bit of promise in testing, but I think they're going to come bottom of the constructors. And then for their drivers, Valtteri Bottas, of course, joining from Mercedes. He will add some experience. They've gone for the experienced driver and rookie combo, which is much better than the two rookie combo. Has taken notes, but I don't think neither of them will do well. I've got Valtteri Bottas in 19th, which compared to last year, I have him down 16 places. So I think he's going to be the worst, decline the most, but at the same time, he's going from Mercedes to Alfa Romeo. And Guan Yu Zhou, his rookie season, he's going to take a while to get going. And a car that they'll be very good. I've got him in last. So I'm not predicting big things for Alfa Romeo. I think they're going to struggle. But as I said earlier, this year, a lot of it, they could be going for podiums at some point this year. It's just really unpredictable, but I don't think they'll do very well, in my opinion. Josh, I'll go to you next. What are you thinking about Alpha?
Kind of similar to you in the fact that I don't think they've made much progression in the last few years, and they're just stagnated and haven't really been able to move up the constructors table. But I'm not as drastic as you, and I've gone with 9th instead of 10th for the team as overall. But I've only gone with 9th instead of 10th because of Valtteri Bottas. I'm in agreement with you that because he's a rookie and he's the only rookie on the grid, that Guan Yu Zhou is going to come last place. But the reason that I've put Alfa Romeo 9th instead of 10th is because I believe Valtteri Bottas, with his experience and his knowledge, he'll be able to pick up a few decent amount of points to pull them away from last place. And I've actually got Valtteri Bottas to finish in 14th. So reasonably high for Alfa Romeo driver in the actual driver's standings. But due to his teammate being a new rookie, I just don't think he'll be enough to get them any higher than 9th in the constructors.
Yeah, I mean, it is looking like Valtteri Bottas is going to be key to how they do this year. Robert, you're next. What are you thinking about Alpha? Do you think they're going to come last like me, or are you thinking a bit positively about Alpha this year?
The way I'm doing my predictions, I'm not basing them off testing, because I don't even know what happened in testing. I really did not want to look at any results. So what I'm about to predict is sort of what I would kind of like to happen. And to begin with, Alfa Romeo on my list, they are in 9th, so same as Josh. I think Bottas will do reasonably well. He's obviously a very good driver. He's got plenty of experience in F1. Even though this would be his first time in a relatively underpowered car, because even back when he was at Williams, the Williams was incredible. And then obviously the Mercedes. But I think he'll probably do well. Not as well as Josh would like him to. So I've got Bottas in 16th. But I think Guan Yu Zhou might be a pleasant surprise. And I've got him in 18th. So just a couple of spots behind Bottas. But overall, I'm not expecting too much from Alfa Romeo. I think they'll just top the team I've got in last place, but probably not going to be good enough to finish higher than 9th in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, so Robert, you're keeping on the not much optimism going for Alfa Romeo at the moment. Joe, you're always full of optimism. Are you gonna turn that around? Are you gonna be here shouting that they're gonna win it? What do you think?
I don't know. As in, just looking at testing, as in going into the season, I would put them below Haas and Williams, but with testing and seeing how Bottas, we're looking at some articles and seeing how Bottas is kind of reining in, like as in getting the much feedback that obviously Mercedes had the advantage of using it at Alfa Romeo, which kind of makes me think that the reason I'm putting Alfa Romeo 8th is because of Bottas, just because I think he'll get all their points. That's why I put Bottas 15th, just on the basis of he will get the most points and outscore Williams and Haas in the process. And I put Guan Yu Zhou 20th because he reminds me of a Van Dorn like driver. Didn't do very well in F2, in my opinion, I don't think they should be in the sport if you're P2 in F2, because the performances he produced weren't particularly good enough, I think. And if you look at the current, like the drivers that could have gone up who were second, like Callum Aylock, I don't think he was better than Callum Aylock, so I think it will be just another Van Dorn, Giovinazzi, and struggle massively.
I love the differences here. So you have Robert going, I haven't even seen testing, don't take anything from testing. And Joe has been like, seeing it from testing, I've changed my mind. And that's great because we've got all five of us here. So we're going to have different ways of determining where people are going. So we're getting a difference in opinion. Now we're going to the other Alpha, of course, spelt differently, Alpha Tauri. They finished 6th last season. 2 drivers, Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda, going into a second year in F1, who last year finished 14th. I'm gonna go first with this one. So I'm gonna start with Pierre. I think he's performed so consistently every year. He was really unlucky at Red Bull. We said that, but he just consistently puts some performances that he shouldn't be doing for the car. He did carry the AlphaTauri last year on his back. Yuki, of course, it was his first year in the sport. He was going to take a while to get used to the car, and I think he did as the season went on, but there was a big onus on Pierre to get the points, and he did well. He got a few podiums. He's a great driver, and I see him again getting a top 10 finish. I've got him 9th in my predictions, so finishing in the same place as last year. And with Yuki Tsunoda, I see improvement. Last year, 14th. He was just getting into the sport. I don't see him improving too much, but I definitely think you'll be able to see the steps. It's a very competitive grid this year. So this is the year that Tsunoda really needs to stand out and make his mark on the sport. I've got him in 12th, 2 places up on his position last year. And overall, I've got AlphaTauri in 6th, staying the same with Pierre. I think this will be his last year at the team. That's my opinion anyway. Now let's go to Robert first. What do you think for AlphaTauri? How do you think they'll do?
Got AlphaTauri in 8th, so just above Alfa Romeo. I think Gasly will again be the main man to watch in that team, and I've got him in 14th. And then Yuki is way down in 17th on my list. I still think he's got a lot to learn. I'm hoping that he gets some consistency going, because that was a key issue for him last season. And if he manages to get some good results, in the first half of the season, I really want him to carry that momentum into the second half after the break. And hopefully by the end of the season, we could all agree that Yuki is a more mature driver, because I think that was his main issue last season. He made some quite silly mistakes, and if he manages to get over that this year, I think he'll be fine. But I still don't see him edging Gasly. There's just no chance. And the team itself, I don't know. I really, as I said, I've no idea what happened in testing. I just know what the cars look like, so I can't really base my predictions on anything. But I've got a feeling that they'll not really do well. So I've got them in 8th.
Oh, very, very interesting, predicting a Alpha struggle this year. Matt, I'm going to go to you next. How do you think they'll do? I'm predicting them 6th. Robert 8th. Are you going to go middle ground, higher or below?
I'm very interested to see how this team does. A lot of last year, the strategies at AlphaTauri cost Gasly so many points. Gasly just had a lot of bad luck and I felt he deserved a lot more points than he got last year. Yuki Tsunoda, even himself questioned his fitness, and I don't think he really prepared for Formula One the best he could have. So in terms of where they're going to finish, I've got Gasly in 8th. I think Gasly's very underrated. He put in so many stellar performances last year. Yuki Tsunoda, I think he was 14th last season. I do think he will improve. He did have glimpses of brilliance last year, so I've got him in 11th. And then for the constructors, I think they'll do one better than last year, so I put them in 5th.
Fair play. Now it'll be good to see AlphaTauri doing well. I mean, they were narrowly missed out on coming 5th last year, with Alpine towards the end of the season really coming up trumps. Joe, what do you think about Alpha?
Yeah, I think AlphaTauri are going to do well this year. I think their car is looking quite quick, as in it's looking on testing was very hard to say. It's looking above were so-called, as you say, so-called the AAAs. I think they'll finish in 5th, ahead of Aston Martin and Alpine. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very good year. Maybe some podiums for Gasly, capitalizing on the others' mistakes, and Tsunoda just maturing. I think if he doesn't mature this year, his head could be on the block, because the Red Bull Academy drivers, there's so many drivers in F2 now that can step up and get into that seat. So his seat could be under threat this year. That's why I put him 12th. It shows progression. I think it will please Marco and Christian Horner, and obviously the AlphaTauri team. And I put in Gasly 9th. Be best of the midfield drivers.
Yeah. Josh, you're last now. Are you going positivity or negativity for AlphaTauri?
I'm sticking with the positivity. Quite similar to the majority of you, and very similar to you, Sam, in the fact that I've got Gasly in 9th, the best of the rest outside of the so-called big top 4 teams and their drivers. And I've also got Yuki Tsunoda improving and going in 12th as well. I've done that for Yuki because I think the fact that you also the beginning of last season he struggled, and then he moved from Milton Keynes to somewhere in Italy closer to AlphaTauri's actual base, which I think helped him mature and realize how much work he had to put into Formula One in order to succeed or at least do well. So I think that move and having a break and then coming back will be a massive help for him, and he'll improve from last season. So yeah, I've got him in 12th, Gasly in 9th, and then I've also followed with Joe and Matt, and I've got AlphaTauri in 5th instead of 6th. I think that'll be again the best of the rest. But yeah, who knows? Maybe you're completely wrong.
Some good driver predictions there, Josh. I do like that. Let's move on to Alpine, of course, the team that did pip AlphaTauri to 5th last year. Of course, a very good driver lineup. Fernando Alonso, world champion, and Esteban Ocon, who after last season we can now say race winner. So let's go straight to Josh. Let's go back to you for this one first. How do you think Alpine are going to do?
So I think they're finishing 6th, just behind AlphaTauri. I think that battle is going to continue, but this time it's just going to be roles reversed, and Alpine will finish just below AlphaTauri. Just not sure reasoning. It's just got an inkling I have, and I think that AlphaTauri will just about pick them with the experience of Gasly and then Yuki getting better. But in terms of the Alpine drivers, I think once again, it's the same. I think Fernando beat Ocon last year, I believe. If not, I think he will do this season. I say Alonso is going to get 1 place behind Gasly in 10th, so he's going to finish in the top 10. And then I think Esteban Ocon is going to be 3 places behind him in 13th. I know he won a race last season, but I'm still unsure about Ocon. I'm still unsure if he'll do better or improve or just stay the same. So I've got him in 13th, and obviously Fernando Alonso, we all know what he's like. He's a great driver. He's quick as always, can do anything in most cars. Just look what he did in the McLaren when it was pretty slow. So yeah, I think 10th and 13th, then both retrospectively in a 6th place for that team in general.
Joe, I'm gonna go to you next. Alpine, how do you think they're gonna do?
I'm going to put probably more of a damper picture on Alpine. I think their car looks shocking, and I think will drive awful. And it just looks slow, to be honest. So I think they'll be finished 7th. I was going to put them in 10th, but then I thought I'd be a bit extreme. So I think 7th is probably the correct place because of their work team. They can build the car up quicker. So from that, I think Alonso will finish 11th, just due to the fact of how he has to just get the best out of the car. He could end up finishing 10th just because he's such a good driver, getting out the best and the maximum out of the car. And I think I agree with Josh, and I think Ocon will finish 13th in terms of being behind Alonso.
That pink paint is very heavy. Matt, I'm going to go to you next. How do you think Alpine will do? Will it be El Plan or El Fail?
Well, first of all, I'm very similar to what Joe and Josh has said. Everything Josh has said with Alpine, I agree. But I'm very unsure. It might come back to bite me because I'm very uncertain about Alpine, especially their Renault power unit. They've changed how the car's going to be delivering power this season. Alonso's age. I know Alonso's a brilliant driver, but when will he drop off and start losing pace? So just to reiterate, I've put Alpine in 6th for the Constructors, Alonso in 10th, and Ocon 13th.
Very, very interesting. I think I'm going to go next. And there was a lot of hype about Alpine before the season started, before Spain testing, before Bahrain testing, or the Spain shakedown, or whatever they want to try and convince us it was. But I don't think they'll be as good as people thought at the beginning of the season, because I saw a lot of people saying that they'd found their way around the rules and that was going to propel them into a title fight. I don't think they're going to be in a title fight. I don't think they'll be in a midfield fight. I think they'll do solid, but I don't see an improvement on last year in terms of position. I've got them 5th, so exactly the same as last year. However, for their two drivers, I think they'll definitely both improve. So Fernando Alonso, who finished 10th last season, I could see him finishing 7th, and I think he will get a race win this year, because I think that the car will be solid like last year, a good car, and he's Fernando Alonso. He did some fantastic drives last year, and he could definitely get the most out of it. I mean, he got a podium in Qatar, holding on at the end, and then with his teammate Esteban Ocon, finished 11th, last year. I think he's going to come 10th this year. He's going to creep into the top 10. Improvement by 1, but still an improvement. I think he'll do very well again, putting consistent results in for Alpine. Now, last but not least, Robert, what are you thinking about this team?
Well, you've put Alpine in 5th place. I'm going to go right back down to 7th. And for the drivers, I've got Alonso in 11th and Ocon in 12th. So most of us kind of agree that Alpine will not be that great this season. The only really good thing about Alpine is the livery. And I'll have to say that again. Such a beautiful car. I'd love to see it on a podium. So hopefully Alonso does get that win. But as things stand, I'm not expecting too much out of the team this season.
Some very interesting thoughts there. But yeah, no one's going for the Alpine to challenge for a title, which a few people were saying after they discovered this way around the rules. Let's move on to Aston Martin. Joined the sport after an absence last year. Finished 7th, so didn't exactly pull up any trees. First, I'm going to go to you, Joe. How do you think Aston Martin are going to do? Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll, the drivers again.
I think it's a big year for Aston Martin. I can see, I can see a lot of changes if it doesn't go very well. I can see, is it Crap or whatever his name, Kraft? I don't know what his name. Oh no, it's Crack. I don't know. I can, whoever's name it is, I could see him getting sacked if it doesn't go well. I can see Vettel leaving at the end of the season if he doesn't start performing. There's a lot of pressure on Stroll as well because it's his dad's company, but it's a consortium, so there could be investors putting pressure on him. So it's a big year because Aston Martin have big ambitions and are trying building to the future and trying to get progression. I think they will get progression because the car looks okay. It looks better than Alpine in terms of way it looks and drives. And I think Vettel will perform to the maximum and get the best out of the car. So I think he will finish 10th. And I think Stroll will have a difficult season getting up to speed with the new regulations, just because he has had that a couple of times when things change and due to the regulation, like last year, for example. So I have him 14th, and I'm putting Aston Martin in 6th.
Oh, 6th. So not a big improvement, but a potential improvement for you, Joe. Let's go to Matt next. How you think Aston Martin do?
First of all, I was very surprised about the Otmar Saf situation. Maybe because there was just, I don't know, people weren't happy with how he's managing the team and what he did for next year. But going on to the constructors, I think it'll be close between Alpine and Aston Martin. But I have put Aston Martin in 7th. For the drivers, I've put Vettel in 12th. I think he'll be getting a lot of the points for Aston Martin this season. And then 14th, I put Lance Stroll.
Ooh, some interesting predictions there. So no progress made in Matt's eyes. Josh, what are you thinking about Aston Martin this year?
My view of Aston Martin isn't positive. I've actually gone for a decline from last season, and I've got them finishing 8th in the Constructors this season. I just feel like other teams are making more improvements, especially the ones that did finish below them last season, like, for example, Williams. But then I've also got them in a similar position to Alfa Romeo in the fact that I think one driver will be the reason as to why they're finishing where they are instead of finishing lower. So I think because of his experience and his knowledge in the sport, I think Vettel will finish 11th. So you might think it's quite high for where I've put them in the constructors, but that's because I think of their other driver, Lance Stroll. I don't see any improvement coming from him, and I see lots of improvement coming from other drivers, even maybe the Haas drivers. And I've got Lance Stroll finishing in 17th. Quite low down for an Aston Martin driver, but I feel like their car isn't going to be as quick as people may seem, and I really think they'll struggle this season, especially Lance. But because of Vettel's experience and knowledge, I think he'll manage to grind out some results for the team. Hence why they're finishing 8th and not lower.
Very, very low for. Well, we've got to remember as a race winner and Lance Stroll, very low. But Robert, what are you thinking?
I think Aston Martin will do quite well. That's why I've put them in 5th place. I think Vettel will have a really good year. He is approaching the end of his career in Formula One, and this might just be his swan song. So I think Vettel will finish in 9th with Stroll in 13th. I think the car will be decent, and Vettel can do a lot with a car that's decent. And then I'm really hoping for something, a good year for Stroll finally.
But there we go, a bit of Stroll positivity. But yeah, technically not a Formula One race win, I've just realised, but he won Macau. So, and that's a race win in my eyes. But yeah, onto my prediction for Aston Martin, and I've got them 7th, so no improvement for last year. I've also not been too positive with Stroll. I've got him down 2 places from last year's 13th into 15th. Again, is it him or is it the car? I'm thinking it's going to be more of the car. I don't think they're going to have a great package for this year. I don't see them putting up much of a fight with many of the teams at the top. And then the other driver, of course, Sebastian Vettel, who I've got in 13th. So not very high for either driver, especially Sebastian Vettel, who of course is very successful over a good period of time. But I'm just not seeing much hype over Aston. I don't really have much hype for them. Of course, this season is looking like one of those seasons where in like just one superb individual performance and everything going your way could see you very high up. But I just think that they're going to struggle. I think Sebastian's a bit past his best. I think that's pretty fair to say. Let's move on to a team that a lot of people have high hopes for, and one of the most iconic teams of the sport. It is Ferrari, finishing 3rd last year, beating McLaren when McLaren looked so comfortable. I know Josh is looking a bit salty right now, but they were looking so comfortable. They couldn't not finish 3rd. But Ferrari pipped them in the end. Drive lineup of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Matt, how do you think Ferrari will do?
Yeah, I do think Ferrari will do very well. It kind of reminds me of 2019. I think we'll see a lot of Hamilton, Leclerc battling out at the front of the grid. So yeah, for the drivers, I mean, it could honestly go either way. One of them could finish 5th, the other could finish 2nd. But personally, I think Leclerc will finish 2nd. He does have the raw pace. He just needs to tighten up his consistency. And then Mr. Consistent from last year, Carlos Sainz, I've got him in 5th. And then for the constructors, I've got them in 2nd. To be honest, I think either Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull could have a chance of winning the constructors. I think it's going to be very close, but yeah, that's what I think on Ferrari.
Very interesting. I'm going to come to Joe next because I know you're a big Ferrari fan. If anything, you're their #1 fan. So how do you think the team in red are going to do?
Well, you guys are going to probably be surprised about this. I've been quite impressed by the Ferrari. I think the car, the way that it's constructed, looks good. I think it looks very quick. It looks more consistent than any other teams. Mercedes don't look as strong. Red Bull, even though they say they got another cat out of the bag, I don't think they'll be as strong. McLaren look like they can flip-flop between looking like contenders and then potentially not. It might be just a situation like last year where they kind of go back and forth in terms of pace. So I think this championship, it looks like it will be between Mercedes and Ferrari. So I have put, you're going to laugh at, I put Ferrari P1 in the constructors. I think they're going to win it. I think, yeah, as in the car looks ridiculously strong. They've got a very strong pairing. It did. I have the one. So from that, I was going to put Lewis Hamilton, but then that would be a bit cynical in terms of the way that Hamilton doesn't look very comfortable with the car. It looks a bit jottery in terms of the way it just doesn't particularly work very well. But I think Mercedes will get on it, and it could be a very close battle. It could be another or last year scenario, except from the controversy. But so I'm gonna put Charles Leclerc to win the championship. Very bold prediction, but I think he's got the pace, the maturity. I think if you give him the correct car, he can be electric, and I think he can push Hamilton. Maybe he doesn't have the same, maybe has more respect than Max has, so it can be more of a respectful battle. So yeah, I'm putting Leclerc P1. I think he's going to do very well, and I put Sainz P4.
It's very, very high expectations there from Joe and Robert. I know after a conversation we had the other day, you were going to keep up these high hopes for the team.
I've gone even more bold than Joe. I do have Ferrari in first to win the Constructors' Championship, so we share that. As for the drivers, I've got Charles Leclerc in third place, and I actually think Carlos Sainz will win the championship this season. I think Mr. Consistent could probably do it. Ferrari, I'm really expecting them to have a great car this season. I think they definitely have the budget, they have the resources, and they had plenty of time to start working on this new 2022 car quite early, earlier than other teams such as Red Bull, for example. And I think with the two drivers that they've got, they might just have that edge that they need over Mercedes to win this championship. And I think Carlos Sainz, he's just such a talented driver. He definitely deserves to get at least a few race wins, but I'm hoping he wins the actual championship.
I'll go next, and I do think that Carlos Sainz will win, but I think that'll be a race rather than the championship. I do really like Carlos Sainz, and I was banging on last year about how well he was doing, and how if it wasn't for Verstappen winning it, I'd have probably given Sainz the driver of the season. But Verstappen did such an impressive job over the season, I had to give it to him. But yeah, Carlos Sainz was incredibly impressive. He definitely deserves a race win. This season will be the year he gets it. But due to how competitive the grid is, I don't think he will. I think he'll come higher in the table than he did last year. So I think he will come fourth. That's why I've got him. One place improvement on his fifth place finish last year. And then Charles Leclerc, I've got him up 5 places from 7th to 2nd. So I see Ferrari being very impressive. And on another day, I definitely could have put them in 1st and 3rd, to be honest. The reason I think that Leclerc will finish above Sainz is, well, I was umming and ahhing about this, but I think that Leclerc will look at last season. I know they have a great relationship off track, but he will look at last season and be like, a driver's come into the team, and in his first season, he has beaten me, the one who is the next big thing for Ferrari. He'll feel like he's a point to prove why he's the number one driver at Ferrari. I think he's going to come out, and I think he'll be better than Sainz. I think there'll be a great pairing, but I think that Leclerc will be the one that leads the way and will be in a title fight. And I see him being pipped by, I'm not going to say who, but it's probably predictable. But I think they'll be fantastic, Ferrari. I'm very impressed. Look very consistent in testing, though not much can be said about that. So I've got them in 2nd overall with Leclerc in second, and Sainz in fourth. Now on to Josh. How do you think Ferrari will do?
I'm going to keep the positive theme going, but just not quite as positive as Joe and Rob. But I think they're going to finish second. I think it will be close between them and whoever I think is going to win it. I just like Joe said, the car looks impressive. It looks quick. It looks stable. I don't see them having to retire in many races this season. And as you've all said, the driver pairing is just absolutely phenomenal, I think, for two youngsters who just look quick and just look like great drivers already. Especially Charles in that Ferrari and what he's done already. I think they're going to finish second. And I do also think I'm in agreement with you, Sam, that I think because of last year, I think Charles will feel like he has to prove himself to Ferrari and the fans and just everyone in Formula One that he is the number one Ferrari driver and he is the up and coming talent. So I've got him to finish above Carlos Sainz, but only by one place. I think he's going to finish fourth. And I think Sainz is going to finish fifth. So I do have three other drivers ahead of him, but I still believe Ferrari will get enough points to still finish seconds. It'll be close, and you'll find out why I think they'll still finish seconds when I go on to the other team. But I think they're going to finish fourth and fifth retrospectively.
Some very interesting predictions and a lot of positivity around Ferrari, but now onto a team that hasn't had much positivity for quite a long time, and that is Haas. I mean, everything in the post and pre-season that could go wrong has gone wrong. They've lost a sponsor, they've changed driver, they've had issues with their car parts not turning up, so much so they've had to have their testing extended. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, but they're still surviving as a team. They're back for this year after being appalling last year. I mean, I wouldn't have blamed them if they'd have packed up their bags after just hearing what Joe had to say about them last year. I wouldn't have blamed them, but this year they're back with a driver lineup of Mick Schumacher coming into a second year of the sport, and a driver that when we did our livery pod, we were not even mentioning this name as a potential candidate to take a seat that technically wasn't there at the time. In Kevin Magnussen, he's back again at Haas, and it's a surprise, but a welcome one. Robert, how do you think they're going to do?
I really want Haas to do well this season. I think I'm not the only one that shares that feeling. I've got them right in the middle of the table. I've got Haas in sixth place. It'll probably be a very, very close battle in that area, for sixth place, for seventh. Mick Schumacher, I think he'll finally start getting some good races in. I've got him in 15th overall. And then Kevin Magnussen, I think, will be one of the drivers of the season. And I've got him in 10th. So just below Vettel and above Fernando Alonso. I really, really like Magnussen as a driver. I think he's one of the most talented drivers on the grid. Obviously, he did have a break, but that wasn't a break from racing. It was just a break from F1. So he'll get back into it naturally. And I think he'll be quite good. And as long as the car is good, which I think it has the potential to be, because for the first time in 2 years, it's a new one. So that's always a good start for an F1 team. And I really want them to get some top 5 finishes. I want them to be back on that 2018, 2019 form. Just give us some impressive results.
That would be good. I'm going to go next because I have talked a lot about Haas last season and in the build up to this season. And yeah, I agree with you, Robert. It's great to see Kevin Magnussen back in the sport because the talent he has is fantastic. He is so good. Admittedly, there are times where he's a bit of an idiot and a lot of drivers didn't have the best relationships with them. And the man I did want on the grid was Nico Hulkenberg. I mean, if they were both on the grid at the same time, that'd have brought back some brilliant drama. But unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen. I think Kevin Magnussen was the right choice for Haas, but I love Nico Hulkenberg so much that I'm very sad he didn't get the seat. But I do think that Hulkenberg will do pretty well. I have.
You mean Magnussen?
What did
Yeah,
I
I was gonna
say?
s- you said
You mean
Hulkenberg.
Magnussen, not Hulkenberg.
Oh, I know. I'm
Too
dreaming.
much.
I'm dreaming that he got the seat, but I think that Kevin Magnussen will do quite well, especially after how the Haas did last season. I've got him finishing 14th, not as high as you, Robert, and I did drop him down a few places because I thought I was just going mental and I had to keep my head a bit grounded. But he's a very talented driver. I'm a bit worried about what car Haas are going to come out with. But he did top the timings in the second day of testing. I don't care if the track was better or anything. Doesn't matter. He got a better time in that testing than Mazepin did in Bahrain qualifying the year before. And that's when he was doing a qualifying time, not a practice time. So he's definitely still got it. It was only a 1 year absence. But then with Mick Schumacher, second in the sport, I see some slight improvements. He definitely won't do as badly position-wise as he did coming second bottom last year. As the Haas improves, I think he'll improve. He definitely shone in a few occasions where he was given, where the car gave him the chance to last year. I've got him coming 16th, and then Haas I've got in 8th, up 2 places. Solid improvement for them after putting a lot of resources into it. But we'll have to see how they do. Let's go to Josh next. How do you think the Haas are going to do?
Well, I love the positivity from you two, but I'm going to bring it right back down. And I honestly want them to do better. I want them to do well. But I just think that all this stress and all this mess that's been going on in pre-season is just going to distract them from what's important and what actually needs to be done. I think it'll be a slow start to the season, which is why I'm going to put them where I'm going to put them. But I think once they get past this mess of a start, I think they will have massive improvements, and I think they will compete. But I just don't think they will have it enough to compete any higher to finish any higher than last season. I still think they're going to finish last, but I don't think they're going to be miles behind. I think they're going to be close to Alfa Romeo. I think it'd be like maybe a couple of points between them both as to who finishes actually rock bottom. But just because of the disruptive start and losing a driver, losing a sponsor, pretty much changing the majority of stuff to do with their car, I just think it's too much of a distraction and a disruption to the team that they're going to have a really slow start, and that will be the reason they do finish last in the Constructors. But with regards to their drivers, I do love that Kevin Magnussen is back, but just for all the same reasons, I don't see them finishing much higher than their other drivers last season. And so I've got Schumacher in 19th and Magnussen in 18th. So not good, but I really do hope that I'm wrong and that they can finish higher and compete in the midfield like when they used to a couple of years ago. But unfortunately, I've still got them in 10th.
Still in 10th for Josh. Joe, as I mentioned earlier, you did criticise them quite a lot, and one driver in particular that's now gone, so we don't need to speak about. Joe, how do you think they're going to do this season?
I don't think anything will spin in their way. In I don't know why I'm laughing. I think I think they'll finish 10th. I agree with the same as Josh. I don't think they'll improve. I think they'll improve in terms of drivers. I think they'll improve one place because I don't really rate John Zhou. Again, as I said, I don't think he'll get any points. And I think Magnussen will finish it's going to be close because Mick Schumacher needs to show his grit, and because he's got the potential of getting a better seat for next season if certain drivers don't perform, like Zhou, Vettel, even Tsunoda, or even some of the other Ferrari drivers. So he's got a big year for him. I do think he'll get points, but I think that he will finish 19th. And I think Magnussen will finish 18th.
Oh, so again, more negativity around Haas. Matt, are you gonna compound it?
Yeah, I am. I'm basically exactly the same as Joe for positions. Magnussen, I think, is very good. I think he'll definitely help Mick Schumacher develop as a driver. There was a lot of instances with Mazepin, both on track and off track, that I think hindered Schumacher's performances. So I put Schumacher in 19th, Magnussen 18th. And then for the constructors, I just don't think Haas have the knowledge and expertise as the other constructors on the grid. There's a reason why they were given the most amount of time to develop their car. But when you actually look at the Haas facility, in my opinion, it's the worst facility. So I've got them in 10th in the constructors.
Some not much positivity. No worry, Robert. We're gonna be the ones who are right. They're gonna be great. And Joe, I'm gonna draw attention to the fact that post-season you were saying that they were gonna finish above Red Bull this year.
Okay. Can I say something about that? The reason I said that quote, because again, as Matt said, I thought they had a amount of time. But then when the car came out with the as testing / shakedown, it looked awful. I don't know if it's because Mazepin was driving it, or Fittipaldi was driving it, but it looked awful. And I don't know what they've been doing. Have they been, I don't know, sitting on their thumbs for a year and a half, a year? And it puts into question why are Haas in the sport? Why are they hired Gunther Steiner? Is he just a Netflix puppet? And that's the reason I thought Haas would finish above Red Bull is because they put their resources and expertise, or / lack of expertise, into those fields, and so they've raised above into like 4th or 5th, getting to where American team should be, as there's other American NASCAR or IndyCar companies circling around them wanting to buy the team. So it's a big year for Haas, and it's a big year for Gunther Steiner, and they've done nothing for 2 years. So yeah, they've wasted time.
Fair enough. Didn't realise we were into an extra rant about Haas, but with Joe, it's no real surprise. Let's move on to McLaren. Josh, you're in the merch. I've got to come to you first. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, same pairing as last year. How do you think they're going to do? Are they on a upward trajectory and going for a title, or are they going to stagnate or stay the same?
I want to keep it short and sweet because I hope that I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong. I just don't see that they've put enough improvement into the car as others have, such as Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull. And I think they're going to stagnate, stay in 4th, but be closer to the midfield lot than they are to the top 3, unfortunately. So yeah, I've got them in 4th, keeping it short and sweet. But for the drivers, I still think, because he's my boy, he's my guy, he's still going to do well, and I think Lando's going to finish 6th. But for Ricciardo, he's not too bad. And like I said earlier, I think that because of the top 4, in my opinion, I still think those 8 drivers will still be the top 8. And I've got Daniel Ricciardo finishing in 8th. the worst of the top 4 drivers. Yeah, it's not an encouraging start as I wanted to see in testing, but hopefully that's just a blip and they can just go and cruise on to contests with the rest at the front, hopefully this season. But from what I've seen so far, I'm not positive.
No positivity from Josh about McLaren. Wow, unusual. Matt, have you got any positivity about the team?
Not really. Basically, just going to echo what Josh has said. I think they'll stagnate. So 4th in the constructors. For Norris, I do like Lando Norris. I think he's a talented driver, so I've got him in 7th, and then Daniel Ricciardo, I've got in 9th.
Interesting stuff. Again, no, anyone seeing improvement? Robert, you thinking they're going to go up, or?
I actually am. See, this is why I don't watch testing. Just because I can just hope for things to happen. And that's why I've got McLaren in 3rd, with Lando and Danny Rick finishing right next to each other. It was difficult to pick the better driver out of the pairing, because last year Danny Rick didn't have the luckiest of seasons. Very fortunate to get that win at Monza, but I think if he manages to improve this season, he could very well finish 7th in the championship, with Lando finishing just above him in 6th. That's my prediction for McLaren. I think they'll have a really good car. I think they'll battle for that top spot in the championship for at least half of the season, and they might drop off towards the back end, as perhaps the Ferrari will edge the other teams in terms of resources spent on development. But I think McLaren will have a solid car, and that top 3 spot is theirs.
Top 3, we love that. Joe, I know you're another fan of McLaren. Are you thinking top 3 as well?
I'm not gonna, I'm going to Robert here. I'm not gonna read in. I think there's certain teams you can read into testing, such as Ferrari, Haas, Alfa Romeo, and Williams, and the Alpine, those sort of teams. I think with McLaren, as in everybody was raving about them all, is going to be pushing the top 2 of Ferrari, of Mercedes, or they go really. And then suddenly Bahrain, it just looks like the brake problems are affecting them, the lap times, and I think if they sort that out, which they should, I don't think it was sorted out by Bahrain, but the next couple of races, they should get back on it and start pushing Mercedes a bit, and obviously then Red Bull. I put them 3rd. I think they'll do very well this season. The one driver that I think, because of the potential brake issues, that might have trouble with it is Ricciardo. So I put him 7th, just due to that fact. But I think he will still have the improvement enough that he's kept on, rather than being let off his contract and then potentially putting Gasly in at the end of the season. And I put Norris in P3.
Fair enough. To round up about McLaren, you did mention their brake issue and testing, and that does look like a problem. But to be honest, I think that'll be, if it's still a problem for Bahrain, it'll be ironed out by race week 2. So I don't think it'll have a long-term effect on their progress. But I just think the teams in front are just looking too strong at the moment. I've got them 4th, no improvement. With their drivers, Lando Norris, I've got him 6th, same as last year. Incredibly talented driver, I mean, it's fair to say. And he probably will get his first race win this year. I'm going to say this about a few drivers, and none of them will probably get it now. But I reckon he'll get a race win this year. But I've got him in 6th again. Very good campaign, but won't have the car to push for the title. And then Ricardo, see, I've working this out. It's really tough because this year is such a competitive grid. The fact that we've got one rookie on the grid just shows how competitive it is, and the competition for place is really high. And I love Ricardo. I think he's great. He's really struggled this year. I have a feeling he's going to struggle again and potentially finish further back than he did last season. So last year he finished 8th. I've got him 11th. But as a team, I've still got them finishing 4th with some very useful Lando Norris points. But I just think he's going to struggle again. I really hope he doesn't, because I do love Daniel Ricciardo. I think he's a great driver. I don't know why. Again, it's a prediction. It's a guess. I think he's going to finish 11th. I think he's going to struggle. Now on to the Mercedes, the team that have won the Constructors. I think it's 8 years in a row now. They just win it so consistently. Even when Lewis didn't get the title last year, he still got Mercedes still got the Constructors. And Matt, I'm going to come to you for this one. How do you think that the Mercedes are going to fare?
I think this season is going to be very similar to Hamilton and Vettel fighting for the championship, but this time it's Leclerc and the Ferrari. So I'll start with the Constructors. I just think Mercedes are so well oiled and drilled at doing what they're doing. So I've got them first, but as I said, I think Ferrari will push them. So it'll be interesting to see how that resolves itself at the end of the season. And then for the drivers, I think Russell will do well, but I just think there's a lot of competition around him, lots of drivers improving. So I've got Russell in 4th, and I think if Hamilton does finish where I think he's going to finish, will be his last season. So I've got him in 1st.
Let's hope he does bow out whenever he does with a win. That really would be awesome. Robert, how do you think Mercedes will do as the Mercedes fanboy himself?
I already did say that they would get dethroned, obviously by Ferrari, and that's why I have them in 2nd in the championship. I think Russell will be a pleasant surprise, not even a surprise, because everyone knows that he's quick. He's proved it in the Mercedes as well. So that's why I've got him in P4. And I think Lewis will have a really good fight for the championship. Maybe not in the first couple of races, but obviously as the season picks up, I think he'll get back into his rhythm. He'll learn to adapt to the new car, and he'll finish in P2. But I don't think the car will match the W12. It will not win the championship, unfortunately.
I love it, Rob. You're bringing props. You're elevating the podcast to another level that we didn't even know we could go to. I love that from you. Josh, how do you think Mercedes would do?
I'm in a similar opinion to Matt. I think that they'll continue their dominance as a constructor, and I think they'll finish again at number 1 spot for a 9th year in a row. I just think they may have a slow start, as they're predicting in testing, but as always, it's Mercedes. They have so many people, so many smart people behind the factory working really hard that will just sort that out quickly and get them fighting for the constructors straight away. So yeah, I think they'll win it. And then I've also got Lewis Hamilton to win. What was it? Is it 8th? It would be if he wins it. So I've got him to win his 8th and overtake Mick Schumacher and be there for himself. Just because I think he'll want to bounce back. It would have felt the pain of last year of it being taken away from him, or he'll want to bounce back and dominate again. I'm not sure he will dominate, but I think it will be close between him and a few other drivers, including his teammate, because I've got his teammate to finish in 3rd. I think George has proven himself both in the Williams, as he did in Spa, for getting a podium just from qualifying, and from what he did in the Mercedes a couple of years ago, when he probably should have won that race if it wasn't for the puncture and the mess up in the pit lane. But yeah, I think Lewis will win an 8th title, and George will show his worth to Toto and why he should have been in that car earlier, or why he's in it now, and I think he'll finish 3rd.
See, I've gone for exactly the same as you. I've got Mercedes winning the Constructors, Hamilton 1st, and I've got Russell in 3rd. I think that they're just going to do very well. They're Mercedes. They've rocked up to testing with no side pods after having them in the shakedown in Spain. I don't really know where they went. They obviously lost them and just went with it. Hamilton and Russell did say through testing that they had issues. Both of them were saying that it was going to be Ferrari and Red Bull that are going to be the ones competing, and that they're struggling. Realistically, look at the times as well. They were sandbagging most likely, which they do in every testing. They don't want to give much away, which is understandable. It's very Mercedes-esque. But even if they do have issues, even if for once they're not lying and actually struggling, they have Mercedes engineers. These problems will be ironed out within a few weeks of the season. And it's just a case about whether Ferrari and Red Bull can pull far enough away to stay in front of the Constructors in that time, but I don't think they will. I think the issues will be ironed out if there even are any, and I think it'll be a good battle with Ferrari especially. I think the battle between Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc, and Sainz will be fantastic. It'll be great entertainment, especially with these new cars making overtaking easier. But I see Mercedes being dominant, getting 9th in a row, with Hamilton getting his 8th and retiring happy, and George Russell, good debut this season. I do have a worry that Russell might beat Hamilton and it becomes a bit toxic. I mean, Russell beating Hamilton isn't a worry. I mean, the worry is that it potentially becomes toxic like it did with Alonso and Brittany. So it's a worry in that regard, but we'll have to see what happens. I don't think it'll be a problem. I think Hamilton will win it. I think Russell will come 3rd with a personality that won't clash with Hamilton. Last but not least, Joe, big Hamilton fan. How do you think Mercedes will do?
Funny. I think Russell, I think it'd be a learning curve year. I put him 5th. I think it would just be absorbing what Hamilton does, is how he conducts, how he does everything, looking at his throttle inputs, his brake inputs, how he does certain things with steering, and then taking that beyond Hamilton if he leaves at the end of this year or carries on. I see next season for Russell as the year that he fights for the championship. I think Mercedes for this one is just him learning everything and then going flat out saying, I want to win this. And I think he has the potential to do that next season. But for this season for Hamilton, I think it'd be very close. I think it will go down to the last race. I don't think there'll be the controversy again that was on the last race. But I think depending on development and development, I think Ferrari will stay ahead. That's why I put Leclerc 1st. But I think if Mercedes get it right, I think Lewis Hamilton could win it. But I've put him 2nd, and I have put Mercedes 2nd as well, just due to the fact I think Ferrari will have enough gap midway through to survive the onslaught of Mercedes at the end of the last 6 races.
Very, very interesting indeed. Let's move on to who were their main competition last year, and of course Max Verstappen being the driver that won the championship. I'll go for Red Bull. I think straight off the bat, I think they'll go down one place compared to last year. Last year finishing second in the Constructors. I think they'll finish third. I don't think their car will be as good compared to the rest of the field as it was last year. So I think it'll be a good car, but the rest of the field would have caught up, but I still think it'll be strong. I mean, towards the end of testing, Red Bull did say, we haven't bought out all we've got, and then we're saving it for last day of testing, and then they did like top the timesheets at the end of the last day of testing. So they look very quick, but I think that they'll be the third best team with Max Verstappen. I think that he will drop 4 places from first down to 5th. I think that's, again, just due to the strength of Ferrari and Mercedes. I think they're just going to be very, very dominant this year, with Red Bull taking up more of a battle like McLaren and Ferrari did last year. And then with Checo Perez, the best driver on the grid, if he doesn't do well, it will be Red Bull's fault, not his. But unfortunately, as much as I love him, I've got him down 4 places from last year, from 4th down to 8th. I think he will struggle. A lot of people say it could be his last year in the sport. It's definitely a high potential. It's his last year at Red Bull, but I hope he proves me wrong, but I think he's going to struggle, and I've got him down in 8th. Let's come to Joe next. How do you think Red Bull do?
Ooh. I've put Red Bull 4th in the Constructors. Yes, they had a good testing in terms of, but at the end of the day, as you said, Mercedes was sandbagging. McLaren could have been just saying, "Oh, it was just faulty brakes," and they could easily been, well, half the whole the grid could be sandbagging. You never know. But I think Red Bull have used all their resource points up last season, so they won't be able to put that much in the first half of the year, and then obviously they get more into the second half wherever they are in the Constructors. But I think they'll be too far behind the other 3 teams, and I think they'll finish. I think Verstappen will finish 6th. He will have a shocker. I think he will clash with other drivers that are respectful, and he will crash into a lot of people just due to the fact of being too aggressive. And I think Perez will also have a shocker and probably be his last season in the sport, and will finish 8th.
Oh, that is more Perez than 8th now. Someone needs to bring some Perez positivity. And Josh, I'm coming to you. I'm hoping you're the one to bring it.
You have to wait and see. But I'm going to continue with the theme of Red Bull not improving, and I think they're going to finish 3rd in the Constructors. Yes, like if you said in testing, the last day they looked strong, but that was when Max was driving the car, not Perez. So he could have just been showing his driving skill and making the car look good. So yeah, I've got them finishing 3rd and falling down. They'll still be fighting, but I don't think they'll be as competitive as last season, because like Joe says, I do agree that they've used up too much of their resource points on last season and haven't taken enough for this season. But in terms of the drivers, I still think Max will be in the fight for the title again, and I think he'll finish 2nd. I still think it'll be between Lewis and Max again. I think that just because of his aggressive nature, I think he'll try so hard and be as aggressive, maybe not to cause crashes like Joe thinks, but to use it in the right way and to give himself better positions in the races and finish higher up. So that's why I've got him in 2nd. And in order for him to finish 3rd instead of 2nd in the Constructors, I've had to mathematically move one of the drivers down. Not as bad as you have already said. I think he'll finish 7th. So not 8th, higher, but just not enough for the team to overall finish 2nd. I still think Ferrari and Mercedes are too strong as a package for them to finish above them. So yeah, I've got Verstappen in second, Perez down in seventh, and Red Bull in third.
Okay, Perez up 1. If we keep up this positivity, we'll have him up to 5th by the end. Matt, tell me the good news.
We're going to keep that trend that you just said and up him by 1. Anyway, on to where I think they will finish. I'll keep this one short and sweet. There's more competition. So Red Bull third, Verstappen in third, and Perez in 6th.
There we go. And Robert, finish off my Perez delight. Tell me he's in 5th for you. Tell me the great news.
Well, Sam, he is not in 5th, and we're going right back down to 8th for Sergio Perez. I agree with everything you all of you have said so far. I think they've definitely focused on winning last year's constructors title, and obviously the drivers title. They didn't manage to win the constructors in the end, but Verstappen is world champion, so they did that. So I don't think they've got too much going on this season. That's why I've got Red Bull in 4th. Verstappen, he is in 5th for me, and as I said, Perez in 8th.
Gutting. I had so much confidence in you, Robert. I thought you were going to bring some positivity and bring the good news. But now on to the last team, that being Williams. Joe, you're going to kick us off with this team. Alex Albon and Nicholas Latifi, the driver pairing.
I think it's honestly going to be a very disappointing year for Williams. From the highs of finishing 8th, I think Williams are finishing 9th, just because Alfa Romeo have Bottas, and Bottas is a better driver than Alex Albon and Latifi, more Latifi, because I still don't understand why this guy is in the sport still, just probably because of the money. But I think Alex Albon will be there. Is a good signing to then push Alfa Romeo and maybe do a George Russell and score a podium in the wet after 3 laps. But yeah, I think it will be a very poor year for Williams, but I think it's just due to because there'll be one race that Alfa Romeo will do, and that Bottas actually has in his locker that will project him up. In terms of positions, I have put Latifi in 18th, just due to the fact that I think Schumacher is just still trying to learn the sport and how to be quick in the car, and I think he's better than Ryan Zhou. And then Alex Albon, just getting used to the sport. Maybe being out for 1 year could affect him a lot more, even though he was doing some touring cars or whatever. I have put him 17th as well, and it's just going to be a very disappointing year for Williams.
Latifi slander. He's had a few races where he's proved he belongs to be here. Joe, I'm disappointed. King Latifi, poor guy. Robert, I'm going to come to you next. How do you think Williams is going to do?
Well, Williams is the last team on my championship table. I've got them in 10th. I don't think they'll do well. Latifi and Albon are not the greatest pairing you can have. Obviously, as I do agree with Joe, I don't think Latifi is fit for F1 at all. And then Albon, although he is quite talented, I think that his gap year in F1 probably impacted him more than it would have impacted Magnussen. So for that reason, I don't think Albon will do quite as well as people expect him to. Although I still think he'll beat his teammate, and that's why I've got Albon in 19th and Latifi in 20th. But I think Williams will just have a pretty bad year. It will be a rough period for both drivers, as they will struggle to find some pace in that car.
Williams rock bottom, very interesting. Matt, will the Williams be as good as it looks?
I think Williams are going on the up. I think they're definitely developing their car well from where they were a few years ago, but I don't rate their driver lineup. It's the same driver lineup from F2 that they had at Dams, Latifi and Albon. I don't really rate Latifi. Basically, just echoing what you guys have said. Let's not forget the reason that he spun and crashed in the last race of the season was because he was battling with Mick Schumacher. I think Albon is a good addition to the team. I do think he will do well for the team, but I've got Williams in 9th in the Constructors, Albon 16th, and then in last, Nicholas Latifi.
I have got Williams 9th as well, minus 1 place from last year's 8th, and I really want them to do well because as much as it may not be the most talented driver lineup, it's a likable driver lineup. Like I do really like both the drivers, and their livery is the best on the grid. They have a sensationally looking car, and I really want them to do well, but I don't think they will. As I said, I think they're going to come 9th overall in the Constructors. In terms of where the drivers will finish, of course, hiatus last year. It's great to have Alex Albon back. He basically ended up being a coach to Yuki Tsunoda last season. And I think he'll do all right. I think he'll be better than Latifi. I've got him in 17th. Again, not very high. I just think the grid's looking really strong this year, and I don't think they'll really have much success, though should probably look forward to 2023 to where they could potentially progress their car a bit more. And then Nicholas Latifi, I've got him down 1 place from 17th to 18th, 1 place behind Alex Albon. Again, Albon's a better driver than Latifi, most likely, though. I do like Latifi. I think that he's underrated. I mean, in this podcast alone, I think he's underrated, never mind by the world of F1 fans. I think he's a good driver, but I do think that Williams, Albon and Latifi will struggle. Now, Josh, bring the podcast home. Your thoughts on Williams. Are we going to end on a positive note or are we going to end on a negative note?
I'm going to bring it to an end by shutting you all down and completely disagreeing with a lot of you. I think Williams are going to improve from last season and finish in 7th. I think although the driver lineup may not seem as strong as others, we're going to shut down this Latifi slander. He was the one that brought down Williams their points first before the big man Russell. So there we go. We're proving him a better driver than Russell already. Just saying. So I believe that they're going to finish 7th above Aston Martin, Alfa Romeo and Haas. I think they'll have a stronger car. I think it will compete. And we may see ever so often maybe some top 5 finishes. You never know. We might have a Hungary all over again. So hopefully that happens. But I've got them finishing 7th with the drivers finishing next to each other, with Albon finishing ahead in 15th. Just because I still think Albon's a better driver. Nothing against Latifi, obviously. So I think he'll finish just ahead. And then obviously I'll have Latifi in 16th. So 15th and 16th from them both, and 7th in the Constructors.
We love that from you, Josh. I'm glad I came to you last. Got some positivity at the end for the Williams and some Latifi, the GOAT, some praise for him. We love that. And what a great way to end a podcast where I've progressively lost my voice more and more. It's been fantastic. It has lasted a while, but we've had a lot to go through, and we hope you've enjoyed it. They are our predictions. We'll post on social media a nice clean up version of every single person's predictions. So when we come to the end of the season, you can slander us for how bad they are or potentially how good they are. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah,
I'll regain my championship.
let's hope not. Let's hope one of the other, one of me, Matt, Robert, and Josh have knocked you off your perch, Joe. But
To boost my ego a bit more, yeah.
Yeah, we need to drop that down after last year. But anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, download, whatever you need to do. Follow us on socials, link in bio. Make sure you follow us for updates about upcoming content, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.